Welcome, everybody, to Strife's Sanctum podcast. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week I'm going to talk about one of my favorite shows from a couple of seasons ago, which has kind of been the trend recently of kind of going back and litigating the shows that I was keeping tabs with. For the last year or so, I've been doing the reviews every, couple of weeks, but there are shows that have been standing up above the rest of the crop, and a lot of shows recently, like Zenshu, have been stuff I wanted to talk about at length, or at least reflect on a bit more. Another one is Kowloon Generic Romance. This was a couple of seasons ago, and this one was unique in how it presented its subject matter. Unique in how it presented its world, how everything worked in its own way, and what it was trying to do, and kind of staying the course, because it was kind of a romance, mystery, thriller kind of thing, and you never quite knew where it would go, and realistically, there were so many chances for it to devolve into a different type of show, and that's always the worry sometimes, is this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what the first 4 episodes or 6 episodes were going for, or the ending just kind of fell flat or something of that nature. That can always happen, but I felt this one didn't have that happen. It went pretty straightforward. It stayed the course. It didn't do anything really screwy, and in the end tried to keep what it was doing and do it well, but try to tie it up in a way that both made sense but couldn't make sense, but it was also like, no, let's just do a soft landing. Let's just do something that could be very wonky, very screwy, but then at the end of the day, don't make it depressing, don't make it disturbing, don't make it awkward, because this show could have went that way, and I'm kind of glad it didn't, because it was more about the 2 main leads than anything else. And that really is what's carrying the show for me, along with I would say the vibe and the look of the show. That's probably the first thing anybody's going to notice, other than the romance plot, is the way it looks. Because more so than any show, I'd say in the recent memory, this one evoked those mid to late 90s looks, while it still kind of retained modernity in its visual style. It's weird to describe it. The way they created the Kowloon walled city is, they mimicked it after the very walled in, just convoluted, cramped spaces of those Asian, cities and stuff like that. And they did a good job, but more so than anything is just the way they stylized the visuals, the way they made everything sound. Not say the character designs or anything, they look very modernized, but they took some time, and it's hard to do this, and it's hard to make it, because again, when you're trying to do an old school look, sometimes you're still using modern technology, and it still has this uncanny valley effect to it, and it did in this, but this is the closest I would get to feeling like I was watching a 90s show without just watching a 90s show. And I do think that was intentional, because this has a leitmotif of nostalgia. Now, their nostalgia is 3 years ago. But for me, this felt like something 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30. Those old school shows that would do static visuals that really evoked a sense of hand-drawn without being hand-drawn. Static shots of this place, not really trying to jump around and do anything crazy. There's nothing here that's trying to excites you. Just intentionally. This is a very slow show and that is focused on the characters. Not slow in terms of pacing, but slow in terms of the way the shots are processed, the way the dialogue is processed. It's trying to get you to be in this world and focus in on what they're doing and saying, especially with their nonverbal communication. And that's something I don't get a lot from other shows. Or if I do, it's a rare situation, kind of like Lull in the Sea, where I was like so struck by the visual design. I want to say Maquia recently, though that was more just the design of the Etheria Maquia's world. The later world design, not so much, but Violet Evergarden, kind of the same way, like not overdoing it to the point of gloss and almost looking fake. This one, just when you see it, you'll know it's trying to evoke nostalgia purposely. But as far as the characters go, and as far as the subplots and all that stuff, we have Reiko Kujirai, voiced by Lauren Landa, and her whole thing is she's falling for a coworker known as Hajime Kudo, voiced by Ben Balsameda, or Balmaceda, excuse me. I'm trying to read it off the list here. But Reiko has this weird notion that something isn't quite right with her life, despite working in a kind of real estate firm in this Kowloon walled city, and being friendly with, and sort of have feelings with Kudo. There's this like undercurrent of weirdness between them, like that they know each other, but they don't know how they know each other because Reiko has lost her memories. And then she happens upon like a little book and then a little picture of what looks to be her, but doesn't seem like her because her, facial mannerisms and her style and her voice don't seem right. Not that you would know the voice, but every time that happens, they're always cutting back into the past to Reiko Kujirai B, voiced by Amberly Connors. And Kujirai B is a little more just, how would I say it? Stoic? No, the A is stoic. The main character, Kujirai A, is stoic and unsure of herself and everything like that. It's hard to describe. Kujirai B is somebody like lived in experience, kind of sure of herself, knows what she wants, not really fucking around, but she has this like suave mystery about her and the way she processes things. Like she's just a chain smoker and just loves messing with Kudo and not really giving straight answers all the time. It's very weird. That like self-assuredness that you just can't like fabricate because you just know like you're hiding something, but then you're not hiding something at the same time. You're just like, I'm not going to let anybody know what the fuck I actually think about things. So we find out that Kudo and Kujirai B have already known each other. The biggest problem is that Kujirai A, they share facial mannerisms. They share just basically everything. Body type, face, voice, not so much because that's the tell. Is they don't share voices. It is distracting sometimes to hear two different actors speaking in the same character, but they do enough that it's like, okay, there's a reason. And you're trying to figure out this reason. You're trying to figure out, well, what's going on with Kujirai B and Kudo. They know each other, they like each other, but then A is sitting there going, okay, I like her, or I like him, but did I like him in the past, or is this somebody who looks like me? Is this a twin that I don't know about? Like, you don't know where they're gonna go with it, and you think they're gonna do a clone thing, and then they kind of do, and then they kind of don't, and it's distracting in the mysterious kind of way. Like, you don't know where they're going to draw the line here. Like, is this just a person with amnesia? Are they doing an amnesia subplot? So, some way, somehow, they kind of are, and then they kind of aren't. They're sidestepping. And this is something I said in the reviews as I was watching the show. They sidestep a lot of the issues that you have with... Sorry, I'm rubbing my hair back and forth. What hair I have left that I haven't shaved. Anyway, but they're just going back and forth on like little subplots and things that you think they would like go down cliche paths with. Like, you've seen these stories before and you've seen them play out before, and it does a good job of not really doing that or sidestepping them enough that it feels genuine and different. And they have some other characters too, like Yaume, who is Reiko's friend, mainly Reiko A's friend, and she's voiced by, oh god, let me get this right, Anjali Kuna Paneni, who was Shinigami in Master Detective Archives Raincode. And Yaume's whole thing is she was a struggling artist trying to live up to, or a struggling theater professional, just one of those kinds of people, trying to live up to her famous mother who was trying to control her life and do everything about that. So she runs off to Kowloon and tries to remake herself, and then runs into Reiko A, who basically says, like, you're you. It doesn't matter, like, if you're a fake, if you're a real person, if you're a whatever, because you start hearing these things called, like, zirconians or generics being thrown around by other characters. And Yaume hears this, and she goes, okay, because they're talking about diamonds. They're talking about cubic zirconias and how she bought some, and they're like fake diamonds. And Reiko just sits there and goes, if they're beautiful to you, who cares? You're beautiful the way you want to be. You can be your own person. So she's kind of reaffirming her own existence while trying to help her friend. So Yaume becomes her friend, and then they like she meets Kudo, and like they just become like this little trio of people that, you know, often meet up after work and whatever. But then you start noticing that Yaume is trying to help Reiko A figuring out this whole Reiko Kujirai B business. So trying to do that. All the while, another subplot with a couple other characters, Miyuki Hebinuma, voiced by Kaylee McKee, and Tao Gwen, voiced by Edward Mendoza. They have their own things going on. Miyuki is an androgynous, or I forget if it's hermaphrodite, but this son who's like weird and creepy all the time, and then sort of hits on Reiko, but then kind of ignores it and then does his own thing. It's like, were they gonna do a rival subplot? And then they just quickly drop it, and he just goes on his own merry way and does his own thing. And then Tao is like friends with Kudo, but is friends with Miyuki, and he kind of goes off in his own Miyuki subplot. Whenever he needs to show up, Tao shows up and talks to Reiko or Kudo about the mystery of Kowloon City. What they start revealing is that there was a city a few years ago that got demolished as sort of a cover-up for some sort of scandal. And Reiko B got caught up in it, Kudo got caught up in it, and all the other weirdness gets caught up in it. And you, as I would say episode 6 or 7 or 8 comes around, you start getting peeled back layers and layers. So while Reiko and Kudo are starting to like get closer together, they are also just faltering in this like weird state of existence where it's like, what is real? What is not real? Who is the real Reiko? Was the person before them? Did they get hurt? Were they killed? Did they commit suicide? Is she just suffering from amnesia? Is she a twin? They're answering all these weird questions. And all these people are stuck in this weird world that they can escape, but at the same time really can't escape because they can't choose to escape it if they want to. There are so many like little mysteries each episode, and I think the best part about it is that you're invested in the characters first, and that you know that there's something going on that you can't quite explain it. It might take a couple episodes, or I mean, a couple of watch throughs to catch up on things once the reality sets in on what's going on. I won't spoil everything in case you haven't seen it, but they give you like enough of each character, because they're only really focusing on about 6 to 10 people. They're not like trying to overwhelm you, and realistically, like 3 or 4 people really care. 3 or 4 people really matter in the show. That's all that matters. It's nice. It's self-contained, and if you're invested in these people and their story and their struggle of day-to-day life in this Kowloon city, which they go into explanations of like, life is a struggle, but you should enjoy it, and enjoy what you have even if it seems fake. Little things like that. Find the brighter side of life rather than dwelling on the past, or even if nostalgia is such a big factor. Like, live with what you got. Nostalgia is great, and living in the past, regretting things is not great. So just enjoy things. Don't wallow in it. That was kind of the vibe I would get from the show, and all these people's different struggles of their characters and their coexistence, whether they were rivals, whether they were friends, whether they were not even always interacting with each other. Like, this is a very internalizing show. They do a lot of like thinking in their own heads, and then they talk to each other about it, and that drama is what holds this together. And then as you're piecing together different things, they're slowly unraveling the mystery like each episode, so you're not overwhelmed by it. And even if you guess what's going on near the end, it doesn't feel like they cheapened out either. So they have a good enough mystery with good enough characters that are carrying the show with their chemistry the entire time. And then, as I said, the visual style of being this like really old school show in modern clothes and modern style was exciting to me. So I felt it stood above a lot of other shows that were flashier and doing more things and, trying to be loud and stuff. Because those are the kinds of shows that I think I like more. Barring stuff that I've already found that I like. But I'm gravitating more towards characters and character drama rather than flashy lights and bloom, bloom, pew, pew, stuff like that. There is a place for that, but it can get exhausting after a while. And sometimes you just want a show to tell you a story and to give you these characters that tell you things about themselves. So I felt this was very good about that. So would I recommend Kowloon Generic Romance? Absolutely. If you want something that's off the beaten path and is more in the romance subgenre without like, I would say something like With You or Love Will make With Our Love We'll Make It Through or something like that. That's very like kind of on the details and the descriptions. This one's a little more like mature and straightforward without being kind of icky about it. And it's very dramatic without it being too intense to distract you. So I think if you're in the mood for something of that more subdued drama with a little bit of mystery, I think you'll enjoy it quite a bit. But that'll do for today. This was a nice and quick talk about a show I really liked. Let me see what is coming up, because I always like making sure there's stuff going on later. So we got through Kowloon Generic Romance. Suikoden 1 and 2 Remaster. Hooray! I finished it, so I get to talk about it. Yay! There's 2 year... Oh, dang it. Excuse me. Just had food. 2 Year Eternity, which should finish soon. May finish soon, but if it goes more episodes, I'm not worried about it, and then I'll just push it back. No Sleep for Kaname Date, and then Maquia, when the Promised Flower Blooms. So obviously between that and probably the next one I'm gonna do is like reflecting on Bravely Default, because it left such an impact both positively and negatively on my playthrough, and I'm like, I want to return to it and like do a deep dive on what worked and didn't, because it's been like ingrained in me for months. So I'll probably add that in there, especially if like 2 Year Eternity doesn't end quite a way. I can push it back and then work on the Bravely episode instead. But that'll do for today, and I'll see you next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.